I'm Christine Tao. I'm the CEO and co-founder at Sounding Board. And I have a guest with me, David Blake. David, can you just intro yourself really quickly?
Yeah, the co-founder of Degreed and now the co-founder of the Future of Work Studios, which is just now launching a company called Learn In.
Awesome. And most important to me, an investor in Sounding Board, right?
Newly minted Sounding Board investor, and happy and excited to be so.
Awesome. Well, your background and your mission really around lifelong learning was something that stood out a lot to me. And I think especially just how clear your vision was around a need to be able to really understand somebody's journey through learning throughout their life, right? Not just, I don't want to say it yet, but, 20 years ago when I was in college, of thinking that that was my education and my learning.
Yeah.
And one of the things I was hoping to talk with you about, given that, you have that mission, and then, the company you'd built, Degreed, was really working with a lot of companies on being able to understand the learning and the informal learning that was happening, is that you've seen corporate learning in a lot of cycles. And as you know, we are in a bit of a crazy cycle right now with COVID and the world feeling a bit turned upside down. And so I wanted to just get some of your thoughts, having been in the space for so long. What do you think is the longer term impact that this pandemic and this crisis that we're going through now really going to have on companies and their employees and learning, even beyond the current crises?
Yeah. We had two issues like leading up to this. We had one of the tightest labor markets ever, and we had a skills gap that was growing due to technology's rate of advancement. And now with COVID, the labor market part changed. So now we have a lot of displacement and can talk about the impacts that has, but there's still that ever-widening skills gap. And so I think one of the most important things we can be talking about right now is the fact that that skills gap is still growing. Companies are still going to be exceptionally hungry for the right skills through every point of this journey, even though underneath it all, the labor market is like shifting like crazy. And so the best we can do is how do we think very carefully and talk about remobilizing our workforce? How do we upskill them? How do we develop them? How do we train and retain them through this period? And we will all do better by that. Companies will do better. Individuals will do better. The labor market, our economy will do better, versus a version of this story where there is massive retrenchment, layoffs, pullbacks, that massive inefficiency to companies who still will have the skills gap, massive pain to individuals who are laid off, massive hurt to the economy that is set back on its heels. So we've got to be talking about how are we going to train and retain and navigate sort of mobilizing people through this moment.
No, and I think that's a really astute point, because it's a bit longer term thinking than I think where a lot of companies, it's important, and Lori and I talked about this in our last soundbite, that in a crisis and in uncertainty, people often go to short-term thinking. But what really is critical is to be able to have a balance of short-term and long-term thinking. Mm-hmm. And, being in the learning space, there's historically been, a trend potentially that learning gets impacted heavily during times of a recession or a crisis. And yet there is this real need, like you mentioned, of thinking about not just the current time, but what happens when you come out of this, right? And those same gaps are still there. Any thoughts on that, or, thoughts to CEOs that might be thinking about, this is not the time to be thinking about learning. We have to think about survival.
Yeah, I do think, a couple of things are different. During normal recessions, there's a flight back to universities, that people use sort of downturns to go and reskill, and universities were the way that they used to do it. There's a chance that universities don't open their campus doors again, even by fall semester. They're going to be undergoing a lot of flux. We are seeing a decrease in enrollment to most universities, or to applications to most universities. what I do think is going to happen, what's different now, is there's the opportunity for high quality, low cost, new age training opportunities. It doesn't need to be about signing someone up for a full degree. Further, I think, the skills that are going to matter most, this isn't about going back and getting, your BA in psychology and English right now. It's about, what needs is my company still facing? What opportunities are there? And what is the shortest distance between those 2 points? Now, in a lot of cases, the skills that most companies need in the highest volume, have the biggest demand, are those leadership skills in a moment like this. And so I think, there's, it's a new frontier with Sounding Board, with the resources that, coaching, that technology and scale can give to this moment. And I just think, there's never been these resources available at scale the way they were in 2008 or in 2001.
I agree. I mean, I think that, you're right. I was working during the last big correction that we had over a decade ago. And the world has changed a lot since then. And I think especially the world of learning has changed a lot, where there are so many options available now, not only to people that have been impacted personally, to think about this as a time to be able to up-level their skills and to meet what will be the new skills that arise out of this crisis, but also for companies to think about how they really invest in the right skills that they need out of their leaders and out of their employees to be able to, one, navigate out of this crisis, because there is a whole set of new skills that are now emerging that their leaders or employees need that they may not have had needed to practice before. And then also the skills that the organization will need once this economy sort of comes back, right? And making sure that they're actually well positioned to be able to thrive, once you come out of a correction.
Yeah.
Well, any last parting thoughts, David?
Some of the impact of all this is going to be obvious. We've got remote workers. That creates a whole new set of skills. I think some of it we're still just figuring out. But I think, what it all has in common is, it's our most human of skills. It's our EQ that's going to matter the most, sort of in these times of extreme fluctuation. Eric Hoffer's quote, "In times of great change, it's learners who inherit the earth, while the learned find themselves beautifully equipped for a world that no longer exists." I think that couldn't be more true than this moment right now.
Well, I don't think I can top that. So thanks again for your thoughts, David, and hope to talk to you again soon.